Crusher!
Don't believe in aliens, they're never going to land. Don't believe in cryptids that leave footprints in the sand. Don't believe in spirits appearing from the dead. The only demons out there are living in your head. Dream crusher, the Lord of non-belief. If you can't prove it, no one can get ready for the dream. A dedicated skeptic, we all know what that means. He's lurking in the shadows and crushing all your dreams. Dream crusher, the Lord of non-belief. If you can't prove it, no one can get ready for the dream. A dedicated skeptic, we all know what that means.
Hello, everyone. It is Friday night. I am so excited. I can't wait. We have so many people as guests tonight, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited. It's been a while since I've had guests on the show because I've been going solo for a long time because I've just been too lazy during the week to figure out how to get a guest on. But tonight, first and foremost, I got to say that unfortunately, Donna is not here tonight. She was feeling under the weather all week, and when I got home today for dinner, like she was just feeling like crap. And the more it went on, the more she just was feeling terrible, and she really wanted to come over and didn't want to let you guys down. But unfortunately, like she just felt bad, and I didn't want her coming over here and feeling miserable and not being able to just stay at home. So I told her to stay home, and we'll figure this out tonight. And I couldn't get Tim Vickers to help out because he's already busy. So I'm doing it solo. So bear with me tonight, please. We have guests tonight. So when we do get to them, like usually we have the first hour where it's just me and them, which we're going to do. The second hour is questions by you, the viewers, which is great. Please do me a favor and hold your questions to the second hour because I'm not going to be able to pay attention to the chat room and save all the questions. So I don't want to miss them. So real quick, I'm not going to shout out everybody because I want to get to the guests as soon as possible. But I see Mysteries Untold by Michael Burkeen's in the house. Chris Williams, Chris Storm. I'm going down the list here. So Callie Highlander. There can only be one. What else we got? We got Malachi's in the house with the awesome name. We got Jade Kittens in the house. Hey, Jade. Tara. Blast Rights is here. Carburetors and Coffee, what's up? We finally connected. I'm glad we did. For your email, and your bottle opener is on the way. What else we got? We got LJ Jinx. Ooh, that looks like a new name. Welcome. Good to see you. Kit Ford's in the house. Going down. I'm trying to make sure I don't miss too many people. Jenny Louise. Is that? I hope I'm saying that right. I hope. If not, let me know. Giselle's in the house. Enger, that's a new name. That's good to see you. Aaron, Obscure Reference Man. What's up, Tim Binga? That's our librarian here at CFI. A really good guy. Genesis 23, Lady Gray Eyes. Michael Smordo. That's a cool name. I like that. Diane's in the house. Tina JT. Oh my goodness, there's so many people. That's awesome. John without an H is here. Daniel Reed's in the house. Cool Wheel. Raw Side Paranormal. I hope I'm not missing anyone. All right. I think I'm just going to jump ahead because I want to get to the rules. The rules are simple. As soon as I bring them up, the rules. Rule number 1 is you are welcome to ask questions. That's what the show is about. It's a learning show, and I will try to give you an answer. The guests that we have tonight, because we have multiple guests, we'll try to give you an answer to the best of their ability. If we don't know it, I'll either write it down in my notebook for homework or which is probably what we're going to do tonight, because usually open mic night, I look it up and we share the screen and stuff like that, but I want to focus on the guests tonight. Rule number 2 is that I don't know everything, neither do my guests. They probably know a lot more than I do, because some of them are pretty smart. I won't tell you which ones. You'll have to figure it out. But we'll learn together. We will learn things together. It's going to be fun. Rule number 3 is that we follow the Patrick Swayze rule here, and that's be nice. You can be in the chat room and you can discuss topics and answers and questions and stuff like that. You can debate them. You can disagree if you want to. That's cool. I encourage all of that. What I don't put up with is when people start name calling. I won't tolerate that. And if I do see it, I need your guys' help tonight and just point it out if somebody gets out of hand so then I can boot them. Because once they're booted, it's the black hole of the paranormal. You never come back. You'll never, ever see this show again unless you start another profile. Anyway, rule number 4 is that if you do have a question, please do me a favor, especially tonight, put a capital Q in front of it. And that way we can, I can, at least if I see it, I can cue it for later on. And then the last one I love this rule, drink up. All right. Oh, that's strong. I did a good job. All right. I'm going to switch to my ultra thin layer and bring all the guests on. There we go. We got a whole bunch of people. We got Brad, Allen, Jack, and Ladona. You guys are all from CPRI, and I met some of you at your Hanover Tavern Paracon that you guys were at. I got to meet and interact with some of you guys and other members of your team that couldn't make it tonight. So I'm going to go around the panel here and just first question for new guests. What is your origin story? So basically tell us how you got started in this, your interests, how you got into the team, and your background. What do you bring to the table? So I guess we can start with Brad because he's right next to me.
I'm right beside you. I essentially, I was, I'm a former Dow industrial chemist, and we had just moved out to Virginia. I was watching, old Jason and Grant, the original version of it, when they didn't used to find a lot of stuff. And I thought that was really cool that they actually didn't find stuff. So I was like, yeah, that's great. So my wife got me an invitation to go stay at that inn that they owned up in New Hampshire. And they had some kind of meet and greet thing up there. And there were only like 30 of us up there. And I got up there and it was a real shining moment because it was a snowstorm that night. And it was like 2.5, 3 feet of snow. Nobody could go anywhere. We were stuck up there. And so I got to meet them all and stuff like that. And I saw something up there I couldn't explain. And I was like, well, yeah, I need to find out what the heck this is. So Jason and Grant actually got me hooked up with CPRI and back in 2010. And they said, yeah, you'd be a good fit for these guys. So they told Bobby, our founder, that, I should go ahead and join. And so that's how I got involved. And I started applying a very strict version of the scientific method and experimental design on what we do. And then also I started actually like using project management tools kind of thing from my Dow background, trying to get us to the point where we are a professional, well, not really a professional, we're a 501c3, but we're, as professional as we could get doing the research, just like academia would do. So that's kind of my origin story.
Awesome. How about you, Alan?
So, excuse me, I've been doing this since 2007, and I came to CPRI because I'd always been into this kind of thing, whether it was hauntings or UAP, cryptids, mysteries of the unknown. I was the kid that was always checking those books out from the library in grade school. And I grew up in a place. I grew up in downtown Richmond. I grew up in a very old neighborhood, very old house. We did have, some non-interactive. My dad said he had some interactive type activity there that was very sporadic, but it did happen, and I experienced a little bit of that. And then when I was probably about 11, 12, had like a shadow person encounter that was very pronounced. I guess you would call it a shadow person. And I couldn't explain it because I was out somewhere where it was up in an area of Virginia called Northern Neck. And it was a place where there was, no reports of hauntings, no reports of strange stuff. No one was telling ghost stories, nothing that you would think, would spark the imagination or anything like that. I just happened to go to a window and randomly see this thing. And so that fed it even further. And, Ghost Hunters, the show came out, and I'm like, wow, there's people that are actually doing something like that. I wish I could find something like that with some serious folks that were really interested. And 2007, I find CPRI, and I've been with them ever since.
Okay. Ladona?
So my interest in the paranormal started really early. I was a very precocious reader when I was young. I think I read the Amityville Horror when I was 8. My parents never censored anything that I read, and I'm so appreciative of that. But I also had night terrors, and the Amityville Horror did not help. And like I said, I was precocious, and I started to realize that if I was scared of something, I needed to figure out the why behind it. And that maybe if I broke it down and really found out what was really going on, because this stuff really couldn't be real, right? That I would not be afraid of anything anymore, and the night terrors would stop. So I started reading, like I said, anything I could get my hands on. I think I read my first Ed and Lorraine Warren book when I was 11, just in trying to dissect it. When I graduated college and became a teacher, I decided and moved to Virginia. I decided I really wanted to find a group that thought the way that I did. And I started looking, and all I could find were the meet and greet groups, or the ones that would post pictures of, orbs that, anybody could tell was dust or insects. And I'm like, I can't do that. I'm not going to compromise my own beliefs. I found CPRI. It was originally the Virginia Ghosts and Hauntings Research Society or something like that, but they weren't taking any new members at the time. But I kept checking back. And when I found out that to join this group, you had to actually apply, you had to interview, you had to have state background checks. I was like, this is it. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is my 20th year with CPRI. And Bobby Atrestein, our founder, she started this all by herself. And it's been really cool to watch over the last 20 years how CPRI has grown. And we now have a core group of people that have been with us a long time. We've stuck it out. And we have really developed into a serious research organization. And I've seen us grown from doing private homes, which I'll get into later if I can, because no.
Oh, yeah.
No.
I'm sensing a disturbance in the force, and I would like to go into that a little bit more. So yes.
Yeah. So, but we were doing that when I first joined and stuff, but to see where we are now and how we avoid things in situations that we can't control the variables. We want to have, if we're going to do science, we want to do it correctly. And I'm just so pleased. These guys are my family. We go to really weird places together, and you got to trust the people that you're with. And I trust everybody in CPR, as with my life, if I had to. They're just a great group. And like I said, and being one of the few females in the group, it's, kind of nice to have, I know they have my back, and I really do appreciate it.
Cool. All right. That was good. All right, Jack, you're up.
All right. Well, my origin story with CPRI goes back to when I was a kid living in a haunted brownstone in New York City. My parents were at Columbia, and they were professor types, and some really, really funky stuff happened to me, and I witnessed happen in that old brownstone, which is still there. I'd love to go back and do some investigating there, but there's a Starbucks on the ground floor now. But my parents were very religious and skeptical, and they kind of put the kibosh on me even suggesting that any of those things were going on or that I was seeing what I was seeing. So flash forward 20 years and I grow up and go to graduate school and become a social scientist. And about that time, somebody said, well, you have to tick some boxes off to finish your degree and everything. But once you're Dr. Trammell, you can study whatever you want. And I'm like, okay. Well, I want to go back to my origin story and figure out maybe what was going on when I was a kid with that stuff and why my parents were in such denial about it. So about that time, I met Brad, and it was not too long after he had joined CPRI, and I bought him lunch in order to pass my interview, and I've been with them ever since. But as a sociologist. As a sociologist, I'm not only fascinated with the paranormal, I also like to be the investigator of the investigators. And so I've done several studies on ghost hunters and what makes them tick. And that actually is part of what landed my university job, because they were really interested in that. So that's the short version.
That was pretty good. I like it. Well, thanks, guys. I think
there's a story there. Jack came on board, and we were like, oh, he's checking us out. He's researching us. Right? And he's like, no, he's not. No way. And then what happens? There's a paper where he was actually researching us. And I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. But it was fun.
So my first question, I guess, right, just going backwards here is, so Jack, have you published these papers, and where are they published? Where can we see them?
Academia.edu has a number of pieces. And then there are some other things that are in more popular magazines, newspapers, and things. And so the more scholarly stuff is on academia.edu. And then I do study some other stuff that's not paranormal, not really that important, like, federal disability compliance, stuff that really doesn't matter that much in the grants. I'm just kidding. That's not true. But
yeah, I was going to say, come on.
I was like, oh my God, I'm getting canceled.
but my true interest is still with the paranormal. And so, yeah, academia.edu, and 2 M's and 2 L's in my last name, and that stuff will come up. One of them I wrote, for example, is the Bible interpreted through the paranormal. And actually, the Old New Testament combined with the New Testament is one of the biggest paranormal stories you could read. And so if that piques your interest, just do a search under my name at academia.edu.
Okay. So you guys, what really impressed me, and now, I mean, now that we've done the origin stories and introductions and stuff, feel free for anyone to just jump in. I'm not gonna go one by one. You guys just jump in when you want to answer. So who's been there the longest? Ladona. Okay.
Ladona.
Have you seen, like, what's the change? Because Brad mentioned about like bringing more of a strict scientific method into it, the methodology. So have you seen this big shift from when you started to now? And do you like it? What are your thoughts on it?
Absolutely. So from the beginning, it was made clear that we were a scientific organization, even back in 2005. But it was more of, we're going, we don't count personal experiences. We don't use any metaphysical stuff. We don't buy into the ghost equipment, that sort of thing. What happened when we really turned the corner, we started getting people, more people like Allen, Brad, Jack, a whole bunch of others, that it was just the right mix of people to move towards that real scientific research approach. Brad, he's our science coordinator, and, a lot of it does fall on Brad because he gives up a lot of time, and, he keeps us on track and making sure, okay, that's a great piece of evidence. That could be a great piece of evidence, but we got to go through everything and rule out any possible thing that we can. And that's what, I mean, and it was always a dream to become a nonprofit, but we have the right people in place now that we were able to make that happen. So I'm so thrilled to be part of this organization. We make people mad. Now let me rephrase that. Brad makes people mad.
Really mad all the time.
Really, really mad. The shirts didn't help. Wearing the shirt last year, yeah, that didn't help. But we try to be light about it because what everybody else does, that's their thing, and that's fine. But we want to kind of stand out as a little bit different, because we're not searching for ghosts. We are trying to find explanations for unexplainable things.
Wow. I love this. I'm so happy right now. I'm not used to talking to a quote unquote paranormal group that puts so much like this ahead. Like, you're so much importance on science and scrutinizing and criticizing, critiquing. I mean, it sounds like me. I mean, I piss off a lot of people. And I think, Brad, like, that was one of the first things you said to me when we met, was that you were happy that I was there because now everyone can get pissed off at me.
That's right. You took the heat off of us, Kenny.
Oh my goodness.
I think one of the best things that we have going is, we come from, in many cases, different professional academic backgrounds. We come from different belief structures and upbringings. And somehow that all goes into the same pot. And to use a metaphor, I think it makes for a really good stew. All of us on the panel tonight have completely different professional backgrounds. My entire career, I retired from law enforcement after 26 years back 2023. My entire background back to high school is emergency services. That's all I've ever done. Jack in academia with social sciences, Ladona is an educator, Brad with chemistry and audio visual, and we have engineers, and we have a medical doctor, and we have couple other computer scientists, couple other cops, and we all have our different skill sets, our different experiences, our different training backgrounds, how we operate. I don't profess to be a hard science guy, but I spent a career where I had to talk to people and gauge, are they telling me the truth?
Right.
Being able
These are
to interview
interrogating.
people. And you're a trained observer, the whole lot of law enforcement is just sitting there and watching what happens, especially if you're doing it. And in most of my career, I was an investigator, and I did a lot of narcotics work, and that was hours upon hours of just sitting there and watching and looking for the little details,
Right.
And it all comes together. And I think everybody works really, really well together, which really makes me happy. And I don't know that every group can say that. We're all strong personalities, but I think we really do a great job of checking our egos at the door and having a good time.
I want to touch on something that you mentioned, something that I brought up that I brought up in my talk about trained observers. And I understand like different people can be trained to observe different things. Like I'm sure you've been trained to observe specific. Sorry, I don't have enough alcohol.
Too much tea. Too much tea.
Slanchava.
Specific details. You're trained to look for certain things in certain situations, but not every situation. And I'm not saying this is a dig on you or anything like that. That other people, because I did bring it up to, I forget who I was talking to. He was another part of your team, another
Paul Hope.
enforcement. Yeah,
Paul, probably.
yeah, I think so.
Paul Hope.
I talked to him. I explained what I was talking about, and he's like, absolutely. And he looked at the other guy on your team that's a firefighter.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. And said, yeah, like I'm trained to look for certain things when it comes to bad guys and if they're lying to me or not, or the situation, if it's safe or not. But him, the firefighter, is trained on completely different things. And he actually went into a story about like going along on a location that just had a fire, and his buddy's picking out different things that he didn't notice. Because I come across that a lot where someone says, I am a trained observer, therefore believe me, no matter what. Like, don't question me. I'm a trained observer. And I always have a problem with that. Like, I get it that you're trained for certain things. And I concede that. Like, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to look for your advice. But can those kind of people, and I'm not picking on you, but
I would. Might as well.
even people that are trained to observe certain things can make mistakes.
Sure.
Correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because that's one thing that I do talk about. Like, you can still question, yeah, if they're trained to observe things, listen to them, hear them out.
It's a double-edged sword.
Okay.
Because, and I've had this conversation with everybody here at one point or another. Yeah, sure, you're a trained observer, right?
Right.
But the trained observer's own worst critic is themselves. And I have made the mistake of going, I didn't see that. No, that's a trick of the light. I didn't see that. That didn't happen. And I step back from it, or some time passes, and I go, oh, damn, I did see that. And so I'm harder on myself.
I don't know,
From that
Alan. I'm
standpoint.
pretty hard on you. So,
Well, I mean, there is, I mean, yeah, that's.
But one thing.
I talked to my therapist about you.
yeah.
One of the things that we try to do is try to take that, I don't want to say completely take the human element out, but we have people in our group that have been able to create things, invent things for us to use that does take the human element out. We currently have a program that we can run video through, and goes frame by frame and picks out any anomaly that pops up. So if that, what we are able to do then is if we see something and we think we might, did I see that? We just run it through the program and there is an anomaly.
If it's there, the program will pick it up. If it's not there, the program doesn't pick it up. And and the vast majority of the time, usually it's a trick of the light, or it's a dust bunny that flashed by the screen real fast, or that's the vast majority of the time. But we do have a few things that we're still trying to figure out on that. And that program is very helpful because, Kenny, you can only imagine if you run, like one time we ran 32 cameras at a location. That was for 6 hours per camera. Can you imagine reviewing that data, that video?
So is this based on like a pixel difference? It's just looking
at
pixel.
It's just looking for changes. It's looking for changes from one frame to the other, and that allows us to go straight. We get a report out, and allows us to go straight to the frame in question to see if there's something really there or not. Okay. And the vast majority of the time, like maybe 0.1% of the time, we have an anomaly that we can't really explain initially. And then we can go and look up stuff and we start doing the hardcore digging, trying to figure out what the heck that is. But most of the time, it's like dust bunnies, the headlight coming through the window, Allen walking through when he's not supposed to, things like that.
We're going to be doing this all night, I promise you.
Yeah. I'm sensing that. But I mean, that sounds like a time saver.
It is.
Yeah, it picks out the differences in a scene, a static scene. I'm assuming, right? So yeah.
Well, it basically, the camera stays static, and then as the camera, it's usually we just run infrared cameras because basically most of our cameras are there just to make sure that we know that nobody's in the room if that particular environmental sensor does something weird. Right. That's why the cammers are there.
That's static camera. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a static camera, and they just stay in there, and we have them in all the areas where we have equipment usually, and we also might put some outside because we have had the instance where we have the average redneck idiot run up to. Sorry, I'm from West Virginia. I can say that. They'll come up and they'll do donuts in the front yard of a historical site, while we're there, just because we're there, which is a bummer. It just kills me when people do that. But we have cameras, and so we can actually see if we turn over the video, you can see there's a license plate of the idiot that did it, that kind of stuff. So we actually help out the sites, along those same lines. We have Aaron Colgrove, who I've seen has commented on here once or twice. He is an archaeologist in our organization, and he actually does drone archaeology. He knows how to do LiDAR now. He was doing photogrammetry, infrared thermal, stuff like that. And we've done that at sites and provided that data to the sites. Had nothing to do with the paranormal, but we were able to show that data to them. And we actually think we found foundations at a site that they didn't know were there. And historic site, like that kind of stuff. So we're big into helping. Not only are we collecting this data to try to figure out what people think they see and hear, we're also providing this data to other people, to the site owners or the managers or what have you, that and so they can use it, in their particular research, which it may not have anything to do with anything paranormal.
Okay, so I guess when you started bringing so much science, and you said, Brad, you brought a strict scientific methodology to it. Like, what are some of the changes? And for everyone else, was it like, who the hell is this guy coming in? Like,
actually, I think that was the thing. I got a lot of side eye.
You're so used to that.
Yeah, I am. I get.
You took all the fun out of it.
I know. But
I get that all the time.
The only thing, well, that's true. We have Kenny now, so Kenny can take the fun away from us. But when we're doing, what I tried to bring to the table was more of a structure. You develop the theory, you design your experiment to either to help either prove or disprove the theory. You run your experiment.
Theory or
data. Huh?
Theory or
well, yeah, coming from Dow, we used the word interchangeably.
Okay.
But you develop that, and then you run your experiment, and then you collect your data, and then at the end you draw your conclusion. You may have to go back, tweak your experiment, what have you. You know how this works. And then one thing about it though is that something that hadn't been done though is creating a database for all the data you're collecting, essentially like a lab notebook for everything. And that way you can go back and search, and then you can find trends, which may point to a natural cause. You can find, and also, I'm all about, Alan's good at talking to people. I'm not. People hate me. So I'm good at looking at minutia, environmental minutia, things like that. So that's my strong point. So I go to look through and I look, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, this barometric pressure changed over here. That's my ear popped, or that kind of thing. That looking at stuff like that, and we try to combine all that in this holistic approach to our data. We used to have a person in our organization that was a data analyst at Langley for NASA, and she had done a holistic look at our data. And lo and behold, she said there's probably 150 different causes for the things that are showing up in our data. And that, we might be able to approach them one at a time. There's no way we're going to be able to approach like that. And they might, and like 10 of them might be happening at the same time. So that's kind of the challenge that we face. But in order to meet that challenge, you got to have a structure. And that's what I tried to set up. We using Google Workspace like we are right now is very helpful in that. We have we're as a nonprofit, we have 100 terabytes on Google Workspace. And so we can dump all that data on there and do all the analysis on there. And that is very helpful. It is. I mean, especially with the use, we're going to start using Google Cloud now. And Google Cloud's going to allow us to do some serious, like the big query capability that they have there, some serious data crunching that we haven't been able to do in the past. So that's kind of the direction we're going.
Okay, that sounds great. I love that you have this data log for each location, so you can go back to it again and again and again. Like that. Son of a bitch, man. I've been trying to tell people to do that for years. Like, you have to track your data. Where do you publish your data? And most people are like, what are you talking about? I post it on social media. No, you post pictures once in a while. You post a video here, but where is all the data? So you can compare it each time you visit to see if there's some kind of pattern that you can track down to a very natural or logical explanation. Like, where is this stuff? And to date, like, there's very few. I think there's 3 or 4 groups that I've talked to, including you guys are now, that have done something like this, where they track it throughout the years. I think this is really important, and it shows that you're trying to figure out what's going on. And I love this idea that the person from NASA, where they realize that there's like 100 different things that could be causing this. Like, that's another thing that we have to look at. I mean, I'm sure do you get the feeling like, crap, like I was hopeful, but now there's like 100 different things and we have to go through that. And that's a lot of work, but
it was a gut punch.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because it was like, well, maybe we were thinking maybe there might be, because the people have been reporting this stuff for 1,000 years, over 2,000 years, let's say. And so maybe what they're seeing and hearing is everybody's experiencing this. It's the same environmental effects or what have you that might be causing it, or who knows? I'm not even sure, Kenny. And I'm not going to lie to you. I can't rule out something that's not natural because we have run into a couple of things that we just can't explain at this time. And we've really dove into it too, and we're going to actually talk to an astrophysicist about some stuff here coming here in the next week or so. So that having said that, though, we're not really sure. All we can say is that there's an anomaly over here. There's an anomalous reading over here, and I'm not sure why that is. And some of the things that we've seen, I'm not even sure why that happened the way it is. We're trying to figure that out. But that's 1/10% of the stuff that we've collected, right? This like really narrow field here. And some of the audio that we picked up, like I was, things that happened like when I was in the basement of this house up in on the Rappahannock. Somebody yelled my name real loud in the house, and I thought it was one of us, and all of our people were outside around the trucks. And so I'm still trying to figure out where that came from. So it's things like that really that keep us going, I believe, because we run into that anomaly and we've got to find out what the heck that is. Now, I'm not saying that everything's got a natural cause, because I'm not one to say that, because like you said, Kenny, I don't know everything. I know more than Allen, but I don't know everything, and so I can't say 100% for sure that any of this anomalous stuff we're picking up is this cause or this cause or this cause, that kind of stuff. I can't say that. All I can say is we have an anomaly here, and that's pretty much all we can say.
I think that's fine. Something that I always preach is that if you don't know what caused it, then you don't know. And it's okay to say that, because you can go through the data that you did collect. You can look around, and sometimes we miss stuff. Sometimes we don't understand what's going on. Sometimes we don't have enough information to understand what's going on, or to put together a good conclusion. But I think in the end, the big difference between a big chunk of the paranormal community is that if you don't know what caused something, you can't just say it must be paranormal, because in my eyes, now you're fabricating a conclusion. You're making up,
or it must be your dead Uncle Charlie or something.
Yeah. You if you just make up an answer, you're literally making it up.
That's drawing a conclusion based on a belief structure versus data-driven type of things. So. And that,
Kenny, I think it's worth pointing out that when we go to a location to conduct a research project, I think paranormal entertainment kind of skews what we do, right? So you go to even ghost hunters. There's certainly like Zach Bagans in his crew. I know, I'm right there with you. And they're trying to interact with something. They're trying to insert themselves into the environment or whatever. We go in, we place our equipment, we place our cameras, we place our audio recorders, and then for the most part, we get the hell out, physically out of the building. We're not trying to engage with anything. We're not trying to trigger anything. We sure as hell are not trying to provoke anything.
Except for me.
Almost all of it is. Well, yes. And it's just a whole lot of hurry up and watch. Just watch and wait and listen and observe.
Hurry up and wait.
And, things will or will not happen on their own.
I guess.
I wanted to circle back to what Alan was saying and Kenny was saying about observer training. And some of this, we're talking about the scientific gear we use. But to return to what Brad was talking about, part of what makes this organization function really well, I think, is not the gizmos. It's the overall approach and adoption of a set of principles. And this is low-hanging fruit for any
Process, yeah.
paranormal group. Don't send a person don't send a person into a place alone. Send another person, not because you're scared of ghosts, but because if something happens, there's a second person to confirm or, to question what happened. So some of the principles don't involve heavy technology; they just involve thinking a different way.
Right. Yeah. And I would add to that too. As soon as those two people come out, if one or both claim to have some kind of experience, exactly, separate them at that moment. Like as soon as you get them in sight, separate them, because there's too much opportunity to influence each other and because I mean I've been there where I've interviewed people, and ironically, like there's a group of 4 people, and this is a story that I tell often. There was a group of 4 people. They were telling a story about a house they were in and how they saw a ghost down at the end of the hall. And it got to a point where they were describing it, and one person was describing clothing and saying like, oh yeah, I saw this and I saw that. And the other 3 were like, you weren't there. Like you were not physically in the building. You weren't with us that night. And when we talked more about it, we've realized that over the years, the group had told the story so many times that the 4th person just incorporated it into her own memory. She was never actually present for that. So that's why I like to separate the witnesses, record the interview, and let them speak about the experience in their own words, give their own descriptions, and then ask clarifying questions. But I never try to offer like my own descriptions for them, but let them describe it. And I think that's important. That's paramount for a good interview process.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on something too that, Alan was talking about, how, we just kind of evacuate the building, so to speak. We'll go in occasionally and do an excursion. Essentially, we're looking at our equipment, making sure it's working. We might be talking among ourselves. And the interesting thing is that we're starting to pick up a little bit of minutia when we enter the environment. And we're not sure if we're causing the minutia or the minutia is happening for some other reason. But that's something that we need to look at. And as part of that, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, because when you do like hard science research, like when I was a chemist, we took down every single piece of data there was, everything, so we could go back and look at it. And assuming something isn't important in the research, this is a big deal. It happens to all these other paranormal groups. You assume something's not important, so you throw it out. Well, that could have told you exactly what was going on. Right. So you got to be careful with that. The whole and there's a real tendency, and I hate, and Kenny, I'm not slamming the skeptics, because I was a severe skeptic when I first joined this group. Severe, like, but the thing that I'm finding out is that some of those other skeptics that I've run into automatically throw the data out because they assume it's something else. And those that with the other belief structure that believe that 100% spiritually in this, that they're throwing data out that could also point the other direction. So we have to be very careful. It's like, you're walking that fence the whole time, trying not to throw out the stuff that might tell you exactly what's going on.
Right. I usually classify people that dismiss openly or so easily more cynical in nature than skeptical.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, the definition of skeptical means you're curious, you're asking questions, you want to get to the truth. You're not sure about it.
That's exactly right.
And you want to investigate it. And that's what I live by. When you dismiss things out of hand like that, you're not giving it a chance. You're not willing to understand. You're playing an armchair cynic, and you just dismiss it out of hand. And I don't agree with that at all. And I mean, I'm
with you.
I try almost anything, like shit that I don't want to do. I've let people handcuff me in a basement of a haunted house because they thought that would put me at risk of getting possessed by a demon. I said, all right, I'll
Well,
try.
that's too much information, man. That is too much information.
Oh, that's nothing. That's like that's easy stuff that I've done. One thing I want to touch on, because we're getting close to the top of the hour here, is I want to circle back to something Ladona mentioned early about private homes, private residences, and your thoughts on this. So I have my own thoughts, but this is your show. So Ladona, I'm going to give it to you so you can start off and tell us what you wanted to touch on with that.
Okay. I feel very, very strongly about this. I was a speaker at Paracon last year on this topic, and I have submitted an abstract to speak at the Paranormal Research Symposium in Gettysburg in August on this particular topic. I think one of the things that really helps us stand out in the way that we do things is we have stopped doing private homes. And some of it, so in my first leadership role in CPRI, I was a regional director, which meant when we got case requests that fell into my part of the state of Virginia, and we got a lot from TAPS, and it seemed like I always ended up getting these case requests or these investigation requests from people whose main problem was not paranormal activity. And I'm saying all this to say that there's a lot of groups that are putting themselves not in physical danger, but in danger of performing malpractice. I'm going to speak for the group. I was not on this particular case. Allen was, but one of the last private homes we did was a man that had been told by another group in the state that he had a demon. This man had a traumatic brain injury. He was going to harm himself because he had been told that there was a demon. Unacceptable that this sort of thing is happening in the paranormal research world. I don't count these people as researchers. These are the ghost hunters, the thrill seekers. And they give those of us that want to be taken seriously a very bad name. I am a mandated reporter because of my job. Most of us are. And the number of times I've had to contact authorities because of things I was seeing in a private home. My presentation on perils of doing research in private homes, there's 3 perils. One, your physical danger. Okay. A guy who we went to their house eventually committed suicide by cop a year afterwards. He was down. I mean, he threatened to kill one of our investigators. We're like, we need to take a step back. What are we doing? The other peril is you don't have control over the environment. You don't know what's going on in that home. You don't know, are they faking it? You just don't have any control of it. And then another peril is you just really, when you're going into random homes, you really just don't know what you're dealing with. We have an agreement with a lot of Preservation Virginia historic sites in the state of Virginia. We've proven to them that we are serious. We have a great reputation in the community. They open their doors to us. And it's as close, it's not a lab situation, but we're familiar with the locations. We have control over the environment. We don't have to worry about someone's mental health or, somebody coming in and trying to fake it. This is why you have to trust your teammates. So we have not done a private home in years, I believe, but I am emotionally scarred from some of them. It's a joke amongst the group. I think it's been a while since we've, but I had a reputation of the last one I got was a man that was called me to tell me that he was thinking of blowing his head off because he was being raped by demons on a nightly basis, and he had video he wanted to send me. I didn't go into this to be being a counselor to somebody, or, trying to tell them something that I think will make them feel better for what they're experiencing. There are a lot of people that are treading on very thin ice when you're going into somebody's home and you're dealing with people that may have mental health issues. And one of these days there will be a lawsuit. So, I just want to put that out there as a note of caution. This is something I am very serious about. If you can, don't go into people's private homes and tell them that they have ghosts or demons. This is not, it's not right. It's negligent.
Yeah.
I'm getting
the
off my
case she
soapbox.
mentioned that I went on. I was primary talking to the gentleman, and Brad went out to the house with me. He was a good candidate for suicide based on what was going on and the medications he was on. And you basically had an enthusiast group come up and tell him that the dust bunnies filmed on IR under his bed were all the demons in his home. And then they laughed their asses off all the way back to their part of the state. So, to kind of piggyback onto what Ladona said, she teaches an excellent segment on the perils of private homes. And that I kind of took some of that and ran with it and presented at the Paracon this year on ethical considerations and risk management for paranormal researchers. And there's a lot of overlap between my presentation and Ladona's. I get a little more legal in my discussion, but yeah, we have to take this seriously if we wish to be taken seriously.
I agree. I mean,
And another element of that is that we have multiple cases in private homes in the past where people have gone to elaborate means to try to deceive us and deceive other people associated with the situation. So that's an additional peril that's not even necessarily one dealing with psychological health. It's and the credibility of what we do is so fragile that if you were to go into a situation in a personal home like that and declare X, Y, or Z, and then it turns out there's speakers hidden in the closet or in the wall, or we have several cases like this where people were actually trying to manipulate family members to get something like ownership of a house or something like that. So there are multiple levels to the peril.
Yep.
I mean, that's great. I love this is beautiful. I am so not used to talking with a group like this. This is so fascinating to me. I always touch on the lack of qualifications of going in and offering advice, and I put that in quotes because as you're alluding to and talking straight up about, it's people going in and making confident conclusions when they don't have the data or evidence to back it up. They're going in there and making conclusions that your place is absolutely 100% haunted. It's got demons. You're in danger, something like this. And then after 4 hours of hanging out, they go home and they leave the homeowner there. One of the cases I always go back to, and I got this out because this was my first case that I published for Skeptical Inquirer. Let me see if you can. Conditioning phobias. And it talks about a case where a ghost hunting team went in and convinced the homeowner that his place was not only haunted, but there were demons trapped in bricks that were wrapped in aluminum foil. And I've told this story before. The bricks were bed warmers. That's all it was. It was cheap heat for a poor person. And I mean, I used to use them, but they convinced a homeowner who was sitting at the table, chain smoking, with his hands doing this because he was so frightened and scared of being in his own home. That I often
that's actually something I talked about in the presentation I did last month on risk management and ethics. What you just talked about, that could be a cause of action for a civil suit, right?
Yeah.
And the people involved, the investigators involved in that, could find themselves on the receiving end of that, and they would probably get screwed over in the process. They'd probably lose if they had to defend that. And you know, part of that presentation was how not to get sued, how not to go out there and treat this like medicine, right? Do no harm. Do no harm.
Right.
But unfortunately, and this is where I'm going to probably piss some people off. So be right there with you, Brad.
Here we go.
we the paranormal community are often too focused on being paranormal cool or paranormal famous instead of,
yeah, like Kenny, he's a paraceleb.
That's strike
but
one.
he's at least doing it the right way.
Strike one. Your name's going down on the book.
Oh, okay.
How many times is it in the book already?
Like 6 or 7.
He's got a book just for me.
Yeah.
But we're too focused on the you know, the bullshit. It's like the Travel Channel effect, you know.
Yeah.
All these people, you know, paranormal expert, you know, like, you know,
ridiculous.
My son's 12. He loves a lot of those shows, and we'll sit there and we'll watch a couple of them every now and again. And I'll be like, Dad, what do you think of that? I said, absolute bullshit, son. Absolute bullshit. Like paranormal. What is it? Paranormal caught on camera.
Caught on camera, yeah.
Right. It'll be like bullshit, 30 times over, and then you'll see like, ooh, that one was interesting.
No, I get what you guys are saying, and it comes down to people are going in there that for a hobby. They're having more fun. This is a hobby for them that they do on the weekend for a couple hours because they get a thrill out of it, and they don't take accountability for how they're affecting a homeowner because it's serious. The homeowner, and I've said this many times, that homeowner is reaching out because they're most of the time they're scared. Sometimes they're in it for different reasons, hoax, you know. But for the most part, I think many of the homeowners are scared because they don't know what's going on, and they call a team out because they have matching bowling shirts and a bunch of Pelican cases that are filled with equipment that they usually don't know how to use, and it looks fancy. The
Blinky Lights.
and they come out to their home.
Cat balls.
There are
cat balls.
Strike two, Brad.
Would you like a cat ball? We could have one sent to you.
No, I got plenty of them. Don't worry. But yeah, they're not qualified to ask the questions or determine what the meanings are. Like when they ask for the list of medications from people and they start telling you, oh, well, you probably have hallucinations in this. Like if you're not trained in that, shut the fuck up. Sorry. But seriously, it's not your business to say that because you're not qualified and you're going to do damage. And just with any other conclusions they come up with that aren't based on good data. We could talk about this all night because now I'm getting fired up.
If I had to talk to people like as part of a preliminary for any like a private resident, somebody reached out and asked, you know, hey, can you help us? Most of the time you could steer them in another direction, right? Mm-hmm. But I would always start out by telling them, I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm not going to tell you that your house is haunted and it is this. I said, we're going to assume nothing and just start collecting from there.
Right.
So and I've had people get downright angry that they would call us, hey, my house is haunted, and I don't validate what they just told me, that yes, it is haunted, yes, it is dead Uncle Charlie, yes, it is the Confederate soldier, whatever, and they get mad. I'm genuinely mad.
All right, so we are into hour 2. We're going to take our break right now. That means that we have about, let me look here. We have about 4 minutes and 9 seconds to go our pee break. That's what we call it. Get yourself another drink on the
Thank
way,
you.
and we will come back for viewer questions. Everyone at home watching, this is the time to start putting your questions in with a capital Q. And as soon as I get back from my potty break, I'm going to go start starring them, and we'll get to the questions. All right. So we'll see you back here in 4 minutes and 9 seconds from now.
And now for something completely different.
Welcome, my fellow skeptics. Welcome, one and all. I am the chief investigator. Oh, come along, old chap. We will have a ball. Now, if you will excuse me, it's time to open the mic. Good night. Good night. Kenny Biddle for me investigating's my game, and I will have at it. Quid pro quo. As the head of this committee, hunting for ghosts can be shitty, but there is nothing better that I know. I am a skeptic through and through. I question everything, don't you? Let's open the bar and have some questions, alright. Maybe you might find an answer or two. I will find the truth this night and day. And if my name is not Kenny Biddle, then I assure you here I will not stay. Good day. Kenny Biddle's the name, ghost hunting's the game. I won't let anything get in my way. Too many fakers out there, too many chefs, too many toe tappers, none of it makes any sense. I am a skeptic through and through. I question everything, don't you? Let's open the bar and ask some questions, alright. Maybe you might find an answer or two. Who knows? There may be ghosts in the machine, but trust me, I am not so keen. I prefer to see these things clearly, not in 144 P. I am a skeptic through and through. I question everything, don't you? If you don't think I am right, let's open night night. Yeah, yeah. I am a skeptic through and through. I question everything, don't you? If you don't think I am right, let's open mic night. Yeah. If you have an answer or two, let Kenny Biddle solve it for you. Let Kenny Biddle solve it for you. The one and only Kenny Biddle. Kenny Biddle. Kenny Biddle. Kenny Biddle.
I love that music. Gets me going. All right. So we're back. It is hour 2, and we're going to go into viewer questions. I have a few. I don't have too many, which is good. They're taking it easy on me tonight. But you can put in some more questions as I read them off. All right. So first question I have, Michael Smorto. I used to be into the paranormal with my parents, but now just don't know because I'm old. So I don't know if I will see them soon. Oh, well, I don't know if that's a question, but it sounds kind of sad, buddy. Don't assume you're going to see them soon. I mean, I think this is a question about life and death, because like, I don't know about you guys. Like, I think about death more often now because I am getting up there, and you start thinking about like, what's it like, and especially because I spend most of my life thinking about it. Go ahead. Yeah. Oh, I thought Ladonna. I thought you had a.
Oh,
no.
no.
Well,
okay.
I'll add something that sort of relates to that, which is that even though we're cynical and we try to be methodical and scientific, we maybe didn't emphasize enough in the first hour how many freaking weird as crap things we see, measure, take pictures of, so if you want to call it personal experience. And many times we can't say authoritatively that's what this is and that's what caused it. But I don't want anyone to get the impression that weird shit doesn't happen all the time, because it does. And the question is, how can we find a way to get a better handle on it? And that's just my way of saying, you know what? We don't claim to know anything about the afterlife necessary. It's a personal belief system thing. But we also don't have any science to tell people that there aren't weird things happening. Weird things are happening, and we're trying to use science to figure them out.
I agree. I mean, weird shit happens all the time. Like, I mean, it happens to all of us, even me, who's like the professional skeptic, but it still happens. Sometimes I can find an answer when I stop, and really start looking into it. But other times it's like, I don't know what the hell happened. That's just weird. I move on. I don't discount it, but I'm still like, all right, it's a weird thing that happens. And it's a cool story to me. And I keep it as such. You just had a ghost float behind you there.
Yeah, float right behind you, Jack.
Sorry about that.
It's
there's no doubt in my mind that, I just speaking for myself, that whatever we call the paranormal, right, like haunting phenomena, if you will, that's 100% real. It's 100% real. What is it? What causes it? Is it a ghost? Is it some sort of environmental thing? Is it me being loopy in the head? Whatever.
That one.
Say that one. See, hey, but I'm telling you, something is occurring. 100%. I mean, I'll die on that hill. Something is occurring. We just can't say what that something is.
I think
I can tell you what I think, but that doesn't mean anything.
I'm going to push. I don't know if I'm pushing back or like only half pushing back. I agree. Something is happening. Something, and we just don't understand what it is yet. I think the part that I might push back on is to say, I guess the interpretation, how it's going to interpret it when you say it's 100% real, because the initial question that pops up in my mind is 100% real what? Like
100% real to my perception anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, we know something happens. That's what we know something happens. We just don't know what it is.
Okay.
And the environmental data that Brad has collected, for example, over many, many years tells us that something is happening in the environment, right? But if I see that black ball in the hallway and other people see it and it's on camera and something is there. I don't, but what that black ball is, Who the hell knows?
All right, so like that, I like better. Like who knows? We don't know yet because we don't have enough information.
It's there. It's weird.
It's weird. Yeah.
Can't say that that's a ghost.
Right. Okay.
Nope.
All right. Cool. All right. Moving on. Let's see what else we got. Giselle L., have you ever received any research grant for the study of the supernatural?
Quick answer, no. But we, as a 501c3, we are now actually get corporate donations. We've gotten corporate donations from Dominion Power and also from Google. And we've gotten donations from private individuals. And so we do get that stuff. And we actually are going to have like the in-service that you got invited to, Kenny, that we're going to have. We're using that, using some of those funds to actually do that and have the speaking and have the, and have the whole environment to where people can actually go in and actually practice what we teach, kind of thing, in that environment. So, and we also are about to embark on using some of those funds, like, we're actually going to embark on a whole different path depending on what this astrophysicist tells us. And we might actually purchase some kind of scientific gear, kind of stuff like you would find in a physics lab, kind of thing, with some of these funds. So we might be doing something like that. And what's really interesting is if and I'm not at liberty to give a whole lot of detail, but if in any of these aspects of what we're doing, we might actually find something that could actually further a field that is not paranormal. It is entirely possible. And because we're starting to dig into some stuff that is, I'm a chemist. I know enough about physics to be to kill people, but I don't. We need some guidance here. Part out. Yeah. Yeah. I make math. I'm from West Virginia. These people, that are out there, like Jack and Allen and Ladona we're talking about, that are hurting us, it kind of hurts us from getting a research grant to do any of this stuff, because people consider it a fringe science because of those people. And it really hurts us. I mean, you have entire divisions in universities doing work on this stuff, but they have to rely on either private donations or, like the University of Virginia Division of Perceptual Studies. They're looking at past lives and things like that. If they're they rely on private donations. If they do want to get a research grant, it has to be something it has to be like essentially worded so that it's not considered paranormal research. Because if you ever mention anything like that, it's a deal killer. So you can't really do that. But it's the relying on the private donations seems to be working for the DOPS. So it's working for us right now too. So it's working out real well.
Cool. I like that. All right, next question. Thoughts on UAPs?
Get them, Alan.
Oh boy.
I am super interested in this one. I've been interested in this one as long as I've been interested in like the hauntings thing. So since I was a kid, the last probably 8 years now, the UAP field has just exploded because, we had the Tic Tac stuff, the Nimitz stuff, and all of a sudden more and more stuff started coming out. More and more data came out, more and more credible sources, at least in my opinion, speaking on the subject. It is a very exciting time for UAPs. My opinion on UAPs, and I would love to be able to investigate UAPs, but I mean, you go there after the fact, really. There's a couple of us that are doing some side project stuff that kind of relates to UAP stuff. And we do monitor what's going on that side of the paranormal tracks, if you will. It's interesting. My opinions on UAPs have and probably will continue to evolve. If you would ask me years ago, what did you think they were? Let's say it's nuts and bolts. It's tech. It's purely tech. And then you can really go down some rabbit holes, and those rabbit holes are particularly interesting, whether or not they're valid or not. But like you have like the high strangeness aspect, the Skinwalker Ranch kind of thing, where you're getting the cryptid with the poltergeist with the UAP. It's all in the same place, right?
Allegedly.
Pardon?
Allegedly.
Yeah. And it is there a, I'm not going to say spiritual, but is there a non-tech, is probably the best way to put it, aspect to the UAP phenomena? I'm coming around to the idea that may actually be true. And
I got to think, this is theory. This is all theoretical.
Oh yeah,
we have to make. And
I cannot say this, huh?
The party police.
Yeah, I'm coming around to that's my opinion that it's probably some of both, but we don't know. I think it's just a really exciting time. I think more and more stuff is coming out. I think there's a lot of information out there that's probably tucked away in a vault somewhere. Yeah. And those areas where, all this stuff comes together, the high strangeness, again, is just fascinating. I'd love to see more study of that.
I'm having trouble with it because I agree that it exploded in popularity recently due to mostly to congressional hearings, which unfortunately, I found to be a joke. I didn't find anything credible about them. And then some of the main videos and stuff like you mentioned the Nimitz and the Tic Tac, which have been thoroughly explained. So I really don't. We can get into detail about that.
Is your position that those are not UAP, that those are explainable tech or some other phenomena? Phenomena?
Oh yeah.
Oh, we're gonna have to.
We can. I can give you. Actually, it's not the area that I go into too much. I do go into it, but I can direct you to somebody that does go into it, and you probably know his name. You probably heard him on the skeptical side of things, Mick West. He's been featured on a lot of these as the opposing view. Uses science, he breaks it down, and is able to give you a good logical explanation of what is going on with these cameras, with what's being seen, and what most likely is going on. So I can send you some of that information afterwards.
Yeah, that's a theoretical analysis of the thing too. What we're running into here, it is almost impossible to get really good hard data on this subject. I can't reach out and touch this damn thing. I can't measure, and it's going to end up being, the situation is going to be. If there really is something to it, why doesn't the military just say it? Because you got to think they got to know.
Well,
there's some opinions that would fall under the theoretical.
Now we're getting into conspiracy, so I don't want to get into that. But.
Right. That's a whole nother topic, and we have a lot of questions to get through.
Oh yeah. We could do a whole episode on that.
So all right, let me move on here. Malachi, hey buddy, why does Allen not get Allen's name? Is he top secret? There it is. Conspiracy. It's developing.
No, it is not. I don't know why I'm not. It's on our website, so it's not top secret.
He's all secretive and stuff. Yeah. John without an H. Hello, buddy. How do you go about objectively collecting and interpreting your data?
Well, if you follow experimental design the way you're supposed to, you will be collecting data objectively. If you try to insert a belief structure or bias into your experiment, you're already violated experimental design, and as a method. Basically, what we do is if we design this experiment and we go in and collect data around the experiment, we have protocols, we know what our variables are going to be. We know, we try to install all that into this experimental design. Then we collect the data. The interpretation of the data is always what gets people in trouble. You can collect data all day long. Data does not lie because it's data. It's the interpretation of the data that could get you into trouble. And just saying that there's an anomaly here, like say we get a spike in temperature for no good reason, that happens there. Is it a malfunction of the sensor? Is there did somebody walk by the sensor and breathe on it? Whatever happened, you have that spike in temperature, then you got to say, well, that's an anomaly. We have to figure out what that anomaly is. And that's how you go about it, doing it objectively. You just got to try to figure out what the anomaly is. You got to stay away from inserting a belief structure or bias into your experiment.
Can I add on to that, Brad?
Sure thing.
Two keys that go along with that, the objectivity that you had in your question, is we believe in sharing our data, and that way objectivity is having another person look at what you have and reach the same conclusion or have the same questions. And then along with that comes replication. As I mentioned earlier, we've had a crap ton of really interesting, weird, sometimes scary things happen, but a lot of them we've never been able to replicate. And so to interpret your data, you need replication as well.
Yeah. And that's all that's important in this. And I can't stress the minefield that interpretation can be for people, because if you have people, like, let's say you have temperature data. If you have somebody that does not know anything about, atmospheric chemistry or meteorology or anything like that, then they try to interpret this temperature data, they may have an issue. So you need to have people around that can do this interpretation of the data properly. We have a wide gambit of people that we actually do our own internal peer review a lot of times. And we have, how many, Ladona? We got 35 people now, I think, and of all different genres. And so we tend to send this data around. It's available to everybody. We have monthly meetings where we talk about this stuff, and it's like we beat it to death. And then we say, well, we either figured it out or that's an anomaly. Let's put that in anomaly category. And that's how we handle that.
That's awesome.
That's almost like it's similar to peer review, except we're not reviewing papers, so to speak.
And we throw things at Brad occasionally.
Well, there's that.
I can understand.
Darts.
I can totally relate to that. But I get it. Yeah, the interpretation is really important, and you have to have the education, training, experience, knowledge in order to understand what you're doing. And I mean, we see it all the time. So many people in this community don't have any of that when they interpret what they see. They literally see the blinky lights, and they're like, ghost, and that's it.
They listen to a ghost box.
Oh, Jesus.
Strike three.
You're getting close. All right. Next question before Brad gets booted. For you, Brad, you said you joined the team as a skeptic. What made you shift away from skepticism?
I haven't.
Yeah.
When I said severe skeptic, I was actually a cynic, like per the description that Kenny provided earlier. And I'm going to use that, as a matter of fact, Kenny. I'm going to put that in my work profile and say a professional cynic. But I was, I didn't believe that any of this data really existed. And lo and behold, I'm seeing the anomalies that people report. And so I'm asking the questions. I'm trying to figure out what these things are. I've seen things that I can't explain. I've actually experienced things that I can't explain. And that's why I am still doing this. If I could explain everything, Kenny, I wouldn't be doing this right now. And so that's why I'm still doing it, because I'm a very curious kind of person, and I don't like unanswered questions. So
I'm right there with you. I am.
So,
I have my self-diagnosed OCD, where I as soon as I get to a topic and I don't understand it, and it's coming up in conversation, I have to know about it. I have to deep dive into it, and that's my night. Like that's my afternoon. I'll read up on it as much as I can and learn as much as I can on it, because I want to understand what I'm talking about. It's often not enough to have an opinion on it, because I still have a lot to learn, because there's so much information. And I think we touched on that earlier in the show. There is so much to know, you can't possibly do it. That's why, like, for instance, you guys have so many members with different backgrounds, because you have people that you can rely on and say, here, you have a different background, you have expertise or education or training in this is your area, what's going on. And likewise, like, I have a list of resources that I can use, that I can reach out to people with different backgrounds and say, here, like, what am I looking at? Tell me what I'm looking at. Explain this to me like I'm dumb, because right now I am, to educate me. So, all right. That was good. That was a good question. All right. This is a long one. To any Jeff AF. What's up, buddy? What investigation you intended that was just too wrong? I assisted a small team with a medium leader doing a video, one private home asking for help, that the medium told the client that the peacock feather eyes on a wall border print were matching. I'm sorry, watching her in that room, and she said she has to remove the wallpaper. I quit assisting after that. So I guess the question to all you guys is, what investigation was just so wrong that you just didn't want to be a part of it anymore?
well, Alan, well, go ahead, Ladona. You got a funny one too. Well, it's not really funny. It's kind of sad. But...
I think we're all going to say the same thing, and we're not going to talk about that.
Well, no, I was going to say there is a case that we do not talk about. I am the only one that will even mention it. But the other guy, nobody else will talk about it. But I won't.
You're going to talk about the case that you're not going to talk about.
the case that we will not talk about. No, yes. We've seen a lot of things. Just, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm coming up with the weirdest one. I will say I'm going to speak in very vague terms. Okay, about this. Don't get mad at me, guys. Okay. We experienced we had a location that we kept going back to, because we were getting really good data. We don't know what happened. Okay. We're not going to guess what happened, but at probably our 5th or 6th visit, things went really bad, and everybody was affected afterwards. We do not know what it was. We don't. And when you happen to talk about it, things probably in our own head tend to happen again. But I think it goes back to just being careful, and not getting blinded. I think we had some warning signs that things weren't right with the homeowner. Just weird things, but we kind of got selfish with the data collection, and we got some really cool stuff but it's filed away, and we had people that were going to quit.
I've never looked at it or listened to it.
And the thing that the biggest thing about that particular thing, do what? Oh,
I'm with Alan. I was there for some of that, but I've never looked at it since.
Yeah, and it was emotionally draining on all of us. And when you run into stuff like that, that's another reason why we don't do personal or like home visits,
Right.
because you run into people like, this person was emotionally unstable on, possibly controlled substances, and which didn't help matters at all. And so, that right there kind of sent us down a path where that was also during a time period when I was all about nothing but hard data. I didn't even look at the human element at all, and I should have. I should have actually. Jack mentioned it to me during the time periods that we were down there. We really need to be listening to her a little more than I was. So yeah, that was kind of messed up. If you want to move off of that one,
Please.
something that we can actually speak a little more about is the one that Allen and I went to down at that place where the guy was told he had a demon. That was just wrong. That other group came in there and said that was the most asinine, stupid thing you could possibly do. And I'm not going to say who those people were, but they know my opinion of them, and they know all of our opinions of them. So they never should have done what they did. I mean, come on, the guy had a severe head trauma.
Yeah.
And
he had head trauma, like a TBI.
He was on antipsychotics.
He had a variety of mental health issues separate from that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just bad. That was just wrong.
And we didn't know what the drugs were. So when we went to the house, it was Brad and I, and sit down with him and his wife. And the whole time, I'm just having him kind of go over, retread some of the stuff we had talked on the phone about. We'd talked on the phone at some length about 3 times. So I just kind of went back over some of that stuff with Brad in the room. And the whole time the wife's sitting there, and she's real quiet, not saying anything, kind of heads down. She's kind of like just looking at him, eyes, seems kind of unsettled, nervous, but quiet. And I said, what medications are you on? Which is a question I do ask. Now, I'm not a doctor, but we have a doctor. So I got it and went and called our doc, one of our members. And she goes, oh, that's a very powerful antipsychotic. Okay, got it. And then I did the thing that cops like to do, is we like to separate the witnesses. So I asked the wife, is it all right if I just talk to you one-on-one, sir? Is that okay? Yep. Can we step out front in the yard and talk? And asked her, I said, what do you think of this? I don't know. Are you experiencing any of this? No. Have you seen anything? No. What do you think's going on? I think something's wrong with him. Okay.
So,
yeah.
While this was going on, I'm sitting in the living room with the other person, and he is rattling on about everything in the world other than what's going on around us right now. Wow. And I didn't know what to think. I'm not a people person. I'm not an interviewer. I'm the kind of guy that looks at a meter and goes, well, we get this number here, so, but it was an interesting situation when you split them up, have the different story you get from them. And that's why when you talk about splitting people up, Kenny, that's exactly why you should do that, because that way you get you can actually get down to the bottom of everything right away. And we did. Allen was like, bam. Already after the interview, we kind of knew what was going on.
Yeah.
So
you get a better sense, because when you separate people, not only do you get just one story at a time, but you also allow them to speak a little bit more freely without fear of, contradicting someone else or saying something that might piss them off. You get the full story from them. which is definitely, I mean, that's what you want. That's what you want, their story, not someone else looking at them going, no, it happened this way, that kind of influence. So yeah, definitely important. Okay, next question here from Tim Binga, our librarian here at CFI. If you interact with something at a site, doesn't it change the nature of the phenomenon? So therefore, it would change the data.
That's a very real risk. And physics has a basic rule that the observer changes the action. And so one reason we try to be passive is to limit the extent to which we might be the cause of something. You don't have to be a believer in the paranormal or not to, believe that humans impact their environment around them in ways that we don't fully recognize. And so I would say that that's a constant danger, but that the scientific method, when you're true to it, helps insulate you against that through the design process. And that even having an awareness of that effect is important in itself.
Cool. Anyone else? Don't be shy.
Ditto.
That's what I'm looking for. I just want to make sure everyone has a chance. If you want to chime in on any of these questions, feel free.
Jack's the smart one in the room, so I defer to Jack.
All right. Michael Stanley Walker. Does your group have any suggestions for or have experience with testing ghost hunting equipment to verify whether or not they can detect ghosts?
They cannot. I'll tell you that right now. Nope, cannot. Only
Brad,
thing that go ahead. Sorry.
Brad, can you talk a little bit about the positive side of that, which is people being public with the specifications of their devices and so on?
Yeah, exactly. We had a discussion with the folks that I can't remember what the company is because they went under, that built that sensor block thing, and we wanted to know. The EDI plus. And it's like, that thing collects temperature, barometric pressure, humidity. I think it's EMF, light. Well, I can't remember all the things. But the guy talked to me because I was on a radio show with Rob Demarest. I don't know if you're familiar with him from Ghost Hunters International. He was their leader kind of thing. And he really went after me on the fact that we needed to know the specifications for the sensors they were being used, sampling rates, that kind of thing, or we couldn't possibly make use of the equipment in anything that we did. Well, the guy from, I think it's Syntex, that was the company, but whoever did it, I had a discussion with that guy, and that guy actually said, nope, I'm not going to give you that. We don't give you that. That's proprietary, that kind of stuff. It's like, well, then we're not going to use it. So I start slamming it on all these different podcasts and radio shows. And then all of a sudden, I get a note. We've posted our specifications. So we now have specifications for all the sensors they have and the sampling rate that they do. They only sample at, 1 hertz, once per second. So, it's like, but at which, for us, it's okay, but we need something that samples more than that. Dave Schumacher and I had that very discussion about this, but but that's what it took though to get that. And if somebody isn't going to give you the specifications and tell you what your equipment's really measuring and how it's measuring it, then that equipment's worthless.
And just as a side note,
look at that.
Just as a side note, you don't have to be a physicist to understand this and understand the specs. The fact that they would make them public is kind of half the battle in and of itself.
That was huge. Yeah, but then they went under, which is a shame. But it is what it is.
I don't think it's a shame. I have 2 of those things, and they're both pieces of shit. Like I didn't like them at all. I tested them, and I had the same issue because I had reached out to them when I bought one, and I had a problem with it. The first one that he sent me, put a battery in it, and it just was going crazy. It just would not stop. I could not get it to settle at all. And I took video and I sent it to him. I was like, what did you send me? Like, this doesn't work at all. And then he sent me another one, and that one didn't work. So I was like, all right, I don't know what's going on here. But then I also reached out and said, what's this? What are the specifications? Like, you're telling me it reads temperature and it triggers an alarm. Like, when does it trigger the alarm? I need to know this. And he's like, well, it's not a big deal. And he was trying to go around it too. And he told me, he sent me a spec sheet, which I still have. But I mean, and that's something that I talk about all the time. You need to know if, like, for temperature, that's a good input to talk about, because, like, I need to know if it's 0.1 that triggers the alarm or if it's 0.5, because that's a big difference, or
Yeah, we don't even look at the alarms, Kenny. The alarms are, we're finding out that those things, we're still trying to figure out why they do it, but they'll alarm off and on all night long, but it doesn't show on the data and when the collected data. And we don't know if that alarm is happening between that 1 second time frame or what. We don't know why, but the alarms are starting to give us pause a little bit. But the data doesn't normally show them. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But we tend to look at the collected data after the fact, and that kind of pretty much eliminates it from a personal experience device, which is what most ghost hunters tend to want. So,
And
go ahead, Jack.
just as a quick add-on, a 1 second sampling rate is like dinosaur-like, because many of the anomalous things we catalog through our technology happen in less than a second. And so if you're sampling once per second, there are multiple things that can happen between the two sampling points that something like an EDI won't even pick up. And that's why, even though we're all about science, there's a nuance to the instrumentation that's very important.
Yeah, if you're going to use gear, you need to make sure the gear is going to collect the data you need for your experiment. If it's not, then don't use it. I'm not about this shotgun approach. I don't like it because you'll drown in data, and then you tend to. There's a whole lot of it almost starts skewing the data one way or another, and you got to be very careful with that. So it's best to focus and to keep your experiment as simple as possible. It's the KISS method there.
All right, moving on. Obscure reference man. Is weird stuff happening, or are we just perceiving it?
Well, first you have Allen over there, so that's weird. So that's happening.
That's very real. That's very real.
I'm separating you two.
Oh, man.
So I have since I'm a sociologist, I have an answer to that. Sociologists believe that a lot of reality is actually socially constructed, and that if you put 10 people in a room and all 10 of them believe in ghosts, then they're going to spend their time in that room living their lives as if ghosts are real, even if no ghost shows up and there is no such thing as ghosts. And so it's a trick question. We are perceiving it, and we can make mistakes. You can take any one of our 5 senses and you can show instances of how they can be fooled. There's a psychology class at our university that's all about the psychology of illusion, and it takes each of the 5 senses one by one and shows how there are ways your senses will tell you something that's not actually true. And so one thing we do is we're using instrumentation that goes beyond the range of human senses, but also, of course, can catalog and duplicate. Like if I see a ghost on a staircase and our camera sees a ghost, well, that's great. That's verification. But also there's so much of the universe that we're not even perceiving through our 5 senses. There are insects fluorescing that we don't even see. But when you have UV cameras, you see them all over the place. And so it's sort of a trick question. And the sociologist in me, kind of with an evil clown laugh, wants to say, reality is what you want it to be.
Well, like Ron says, change your reality. if you don't like it, change your reality.
Yeah, that's good. Tim's up again. How does your organization start an investigation? How do you select what you work on?
Well,
I will start. I'll start by just saying that things have changed. It used to be we would work directly off of requests before we really got established and started building a positive reputation. Now, since we're in, historical homes and we're not really dealing with homeowners and things, we do research on the site. A lot of people said, well, can't that influence your observations and stuff? Well, there's also a need to know what the background of the locations, know what happened there. I don't, could it taint what we think or what we perceive when we're there? Probably, but it doesn't affect the data that we collect. And then I'll let Brad or somebody else talk about the scientific design of the experiments that we do.
Well, one of the things that we do is first we got, we pick a site that where we can run the experiment that we want to run. I mean, first we're going to have the theory, hypothesis, experimental design, the whole bit. We're going to go through that, and then we're going to well, this looks like a good site. We could run that experiment here because they think that they see this, that, and the other thing, or they hear this, that, and the other thing. And this experiment, this might be a good place to run this experiment. So that's what we try to do. We also try to pick a site that, like Jack was talking about, reproducibility. We try to run the experiments multiple times at different locations at the same location. And then we will move on to another location and run the experiment multiple times there. And, it's just a ton of data. And a lot of times it's very dry. I mean, it's the kind of stuff where you're sitting there in front of a monitor watching these graphs go up and down, and you're watching the dust bunnies float past the camera and you're dozing off kind of thing. But the data that you collect is, it usually is very helpful. Even if we don't get diddly squat, that tells us something, So that's kind of how we select what we work on. There's, these meetings that we have every month, people throw theories out there about stuff like that. So we start, looking at those, and we sort through those, and we see what we're capable of examining and what we're not capable of examining and that kind of stuff too. So that plays heavily into that as well.
The good thing is, we have this relationship, say, with Preservation Virginia, which has other properties. Bacon's Castle is one example. We got 12 years plus data just from that one site alone. So it's an ongoing laboratory, which is great.
That's good. Yeah, that's really good. I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to the next one. Michael Burkeen. What's your favorite piece of footage that you have captured while investigating? Notice I didn't say evidence.
Well, there's
the woman in white.
The pole dance. There's the pole dance that Allen did. No, I'm joking.
No.
You said you weren't going to talk about that here.
Go ahead.
Somebody. Tell them about our door incident, Brad.
Yeah, there was the weirdest thing happened to us at Bacon's Castle, of course, because we're there all the time. We're standing next to this door, and the footage is kind of comical because the door actually pops, like the handle. You can hear the handle turn, and it swings open. That's up on this floor right behind us. Well, when that happens, the first thing out of Jack's mouth is, well, that can't be paranormal. And it was just comical to hear the interchange there. It was pretty good. On Also, though, one of the pieces of footage that is the most striking is one that a piece of footage that we caught outside in November when it was 18 degrees out at a plantation, at the Tuckahoe plantation. That's the piece of footage that I would love to reproduce, and I have yet to be able to do it. Basically it's infrared. It's an infrared camera, and it's a video camera. It's only filming at 15 frames per second though, so it's kind of jerky. But it was a cheap camera. I didn't have anything better than that at the time, and because this is back in 2012, I think, and I've only been with the organization for a couple of years, and I started collecting equipment after that. So I had better high def 4K video DVR stuff then after that. But this camera was wireless, and it was sitting on. We weren't even looking for whatever happened here. We were out looking for something else that somebody had reported on the other side of the property. And then we're outside, we're freezing to death. It was very cold. Allen knows it was very cold. And we were, all of a sudden we get a radio call. Can you check on this camera? I'm like, yeah. So we walked back and checked on the camera, and lo and behold, there's nothing there around the camera. The camera's just there. It's sitting about 6 feet off the ground. Evidently, when we looked at the video, something reflecting the infrared to the extent that it didn't show, it was so bright that it kind of distorted the video, walked in front of the camera. And multiple times over probably a 1 minute period. And that footage right there, still, I have yet to figure out what the heck that was. I took it to a state entomologist to see if it might have been a bug. And he looked at it. He goes, well, that's not any bug I ever saw. And basically, it's just a mound, a tall, thin mound, went past the camera and then back. And whatever it was either fluorescing in infrared or reflecting infrared. And the infrared camera only had 6 infrared LEDs on it. So it couldn't really, that's not enough infrared energy to be able to do the reflection state. So I'm still trying to figure out what this is. I'm still diving into it over and over and over again. And that was the most striking video that I've ever seen.
So if you wouldn't mind, and send it to me, I'd love to review it.
Yeah,
I will say that, yes,
I don't know what it was.
6 LEDs, IR LEDs are plenty. That's more than enough to reflect off of something, especially if it's on the weather lens or the protective lens on the front that goes in front of the actual lens of the camera. If it's on there, because one of the things I've done is set up my DVR with a bunch of cameras down the old section of the building. So we have an older section from the 80s that we don't use too much anymore, except for storage. And we have our fair share of little critters, spiders and other things. So I placed them in different areas, and I have hours and hours of recording of little spiders, different things, webs going back and forth, loose webs. So there's definitely a possibility that if it is a bug on the lens, it's not going to look like a bug. I can tell you.
No, it's not.
It's not going to, because you're talking about the depth of field when it's not here, but when it's up here,
right?
So much, and it's going to be transparent as well.
This really wasn't transparent per se. It was definitely opaque. The thing that I was interested in the most about it was the fact that the first thing that I thought was bug. Then it occurred to me, it's 18 degrees outside. So let me check with the state entomologist to see what might be out there that would do that maybe it's a flying insect, But according to him, there wasn't anything out that should have been up around that camera flying in front of that lens. So that's what's giving me pause. And that's still something I continue to work on, Kenny. And I'm going to send you that video so you can see it.
I'd love to take a look.
Because I want to know what the heck we saw there. Yeah, because that was, I've never seen anything like it in all the video we've collected. Terabytes. I've
So
never seen anything like this.
I want to run it by you guys. We are at the 2-hour mark.
Okay.
And we do have a bunch of questions still left, and it's up to you. If you guys are good for the night and want to quit, that's great. We can end the show. But if you are okay with staying, it's up to you guys.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Good, everyone. Yeah. All right. Cool.
Yep.
We'll go a couple more then. I like that. Everyone loves our. How about we take a break, and then we'll come back. We'll come back and do this.
Sounds good.
In honor of Donna not being here, I'll play her song anyway, so that we can take our break. So it's 2 minutes and 35 seconds, and we'll be right back from now.
In the skeptical helper, there's a guiding star, keeping chats in line. She's the queen of the bar, with a wink and a smile. She keeps things flowing. Divine Donna's on the scene to keep you from trolling. Divine Donna, watch her keep the show on track. Moderates with flair, she's got your back. With her love, Kenny Biddle every Friday night. In the skeptical help bar, she's a delight. Start your questions with a capital Q, so Donna can pose them for you. Follow the Swayze rule and be nice, or she'll kick you out for life. Divine Donna, watch her keep the show on track. Moderates with flair, she's got your back. With her love, Kenny Biddle every Friday night. In the skeptical help bar, she's a delight. Rarely says a word, unlike her hubby. Doesn't let the show run into hour 3. She may be quiet, but she reads all the chats. So say hi, or thanks, she deserves that. Divine Donna, watch her keep the show on track. Moderates with flair, she's got your back. With her love, Kenny Biddle every Friday night. In the skeptical help bar, she's a delight. Rarely says a word, unlike her hubby. Doesn't let the show run into hour 3. She may be quiet, but she reads all the chats. So say hi, or thanks, she deserves that. Divine Donna, watch her keep the show on track. Moderates with flair, she's got your back. With her love, Kenny Biddle every Friday night. In the skeptical help bar, she's a delight. In the skeptical help bar, she's a delight.
Boom. All right. Oh, like Brad, you made Ellen go away.
Yeah, let's scared Alan off.
All right, let's get right. That's good. All right, let's get right back into it. I did put up the queue cutoff. That's my own for questions, so no more questions. I'm not taking any more questions. We have 10 questions in the queue already because you guys are so popular. Cree Storm, how can you prove that spirits exist if you have no clue what they're made of? Some say energy, and others say not. I'm not understanding how you're doing different things from quote unquote real teams.
So first of all, we never talked about spirits.
No, and we're not. That's not what we're trying to do. That's not really our mission. Our mission is to try to figure out basically what people think they see and hear. I mean, that's kind of what we're trying to figure out. And we're not trying to prove the existence of anything per se. We're just trying to figure out what people think they see and hear. And that, and I kind of have issue with the real teams thing. Because, like you said, Kenny, there might be 4 of us across the country that that do what we do. And some of these other teams are, they're kind of, I'm trying to be nice.
Here he goes. Watch out.
Yep. Lining them up.
They're all about the experience. So as when they're trying to get an experience and a personal, they're thrill seekers. They just want to experience something that's different. And that was very political, Ladonna. Did you notice that I didn't rip on anybody per se?
You did.
But yeah, that's those teams are they're some of them they're trying to be para entertainment, and I didn't lump you in with those paracelebs, Kenny. So just so you know, I didn't.
And I think
we
need to be clear that, like Alan said, we haven't mentioned spirits. We don't know what this stuff is. We don't know.
I have no idea.
That's what we're trying to figure out. Anybody out there that says they know what a ghost is, or they know that ghosts are real, or they know, they can prove that a ghost exists, it's all BS. You can't, because nobody knows what they are. And that's what we're trying to figure out. What are these things that people are seeing and experiencing? Because yes, we've been here thousands of years. There have been reports, but what is it? We're not saying they're, you hear the theories of it's a interactive haunting, or it's like the record being played. I'm losing my words. It's
non-interactive.
Yeah, I mean
residual.
Yes, residual.
Well,
we're not even
that
saying
kind of implies
that
something else.
Yeah.
That's what's going on. We don't know. That's our goal, is to find out what is causing this.
Right.
Yeah.
And first and foremost, I want to say energy on this show, when it's used in such a way, we drink. So cheers.
Oh,
I'm out.
I've got
We
water.
just had a break, Brad.
I know.
Just had a break. Plenty of
I was kissing my
opportunity.
wife. What can I say?
So
She lets you kiss her?
Yeah, I know it's scary.
with this question and comments here, the one thing I'm going to point out and pick on here is that the use of the term energy. Like so many paranormal enthusiasts use this as a placeholder. They don't understand the meaning of the term, and that there are different variations that have applicable meanings to it, not just energy. We can't just say, "Oh, it's made of energy." We have to. What kind of energy? What are we talking about here? Using it in this context is a placeholder when there is nothing. There's no explanation for it. So that's why I say drink when it's used in this kind of context. And I know she did make a comment to say that the real teams wasn't anything towards you guys, but I agree. Like there's a lot of teams out there that they're hobbyists. They're in it for the entertainment. They're weekend warriors. They're just trying to have fun. It's cool to go to a place that's spooky, but there are not many teams that do exactly what this is, where and this is something I preach all the time, and everyone that's watching knows this. I'm not out there to prove ghosts exist. I'm not out there to prove they do not exist. I'm out there to find the truth. There is a mystery, and I'm investigating mystery to figure out what is going on. That's my job. So yeah, when I try not to use the real teams, especially like how it's written here, because that's a no true Scotsman fallacy. I don't want to fall into that. But basically, I don't consider hobbyists as a serious scientific team when they're out there just for the fun of it. And again, it comes down to using the Blinky Lights. I love this shirt where they don't know what it means. They're just doing it. And if it blinks or makes a noise, they're excited. That's someone that's out there for a thrill. That's not trying to figure out what's going on. And that's how I see it. So, all right, rant over. I'm going to go to the next question. Harry Meering. Hope I'm saying that right. Hey guys, how's How would I become a member of your group? CPRI just started out investigating the paranormal on my YouTube channel. You trying to get a free plug? I haven't posted any videos yet. I've been a private detective for over 30 years. Oh, interesting.
So I can answer that. I'm the vice president of membership for CPRI, which means I have the very important task of helping recruit new members. And we are always in 365-day a year mode recruiting, because the more people we have, the more we can do and the more we can accomplish. But we do have a social media presence, and there are ways to contact us through our Facebook page, for example. And we have an application process. And we also have a training process that people go through. But we certainly welcome all inquiries.
Cool.
Yeah, I wanted to.
I'm sorry. I
Go
put your
ahead,
website down on the bottom. It's scrolling on the bottom.
Yeah, excellent, because that's where the application is. But the I wanted to make, we're kind of looking for specific skill sets, and you're going to see that in the application. And and when the process, if you apply, typically there's an interview that happens, usually by Zoom. Then after that, there's gonna typically if you got a nefarious past, we're going to find it through the background check process. So you need to make sure you're not one of those guys either, because regardless, because we're public facing, we also have an educational mission, and we tend to interact with the public in a lot of different levels. So that also, you can't have any nefarious past, and that means that's beyond a speeding ticket. You know what I mean? Right. So we're gonna find that stuff out.
With that said, I also want to add that the skill sets we're looking for are very diverse. For example, an HVAC person specialist can help us with understanding how air flows and heat and air conditioning flow in a large structure. We have teachers. They help us with designing our training and designing our educational outreach. And so the skill set we're looking for is oriented toward the mission. It's not necessarily that you have a certain degree, or you're a physicist or something like that.
Cool. I mean, come on, Allen's in the group.
Yeah.
I
know at one point we had talked about asking for or looking for volunteers just to help with like data management and and reviewing
that too.
Things like video and audio and stuff, just to help offset that.
Yeah, there's that too. There's all kinds of opportunities within CPRI, and you'll see that in the application process. It's all there. And I think that Kenny, we might even let you in the group. Who knows?
We'll see. I don't know. You have this.
You got a full-time gig already.
I don't like catballs.
Yeah.
Moving on.
True.
John without an H. How do you go about falsifying your hypothesis? I've heard you talk about a lot of beliefs, but how do you attempt to scientifically falsify your beliefs?
Falsify? I'm not sure. Well, I mean, if you think about it, we're not trying to falsify anything. I have a belief structure, but I don't let that interfere with the science behind everything, because when I was a chemist, I could firmly believe that this particular process is screwing up because of this. That's my belief. Well, I collect a bunch of data, and lo and behold, I was dead wrong. So, at that point, that you can't let your belief structure bias your process. You can't do that. It's if you follow the scientific method, like Jack mentioned, religiously, then you can't really it won't let you. Let me put it that way.
So in fairness to the person asking the question, Brad, in parametric statistics, it's based on a set of assumptions, including that you test the null hypothesis. And so
Right.
that may be what the person's making reference to, but we work within that paradigm of parametric. We don't delve so much into non-parametric statistics, and we do only use qualitative data to correlate with quantitative data. But if that's what you're making reference to, we certainly work within the parametric statistics world of assumptions.
All right. Moving on. We're getting down there. We're knocking these off a little by little. Cree,
right.
I am of the belief system that the physical and spiritual world are connected. How do you prove this to be true or false?
Well,
to start with, we can't say that there is a spiritual world.
yeah, and that's the first part. And the second part, if you're going to try to prove or disprove anything, we keep harping on the scientific method, and that's the only way you're going to be able to approach this. I mean, the collection of data doesn't have to be with equipment. It can be writing down events in a notepad, stuff like that, because you can see trends just by doing that. We have people that have called us in the past, and we told them, keep a log of what happens, and then let us know. And then lo and behold, they find out, oh yeah, it's because my neighbor next door comes in every morning at 4:00 in the morning, and that thump I hear is that neighbor, and they didn't realize it at the time. So there's how you prove anything is approaching it methodically. Designing the experiment, because you can design the experiment as simple as, why is there water in my kitchen floor? Well, I'm going to design an experiment around that. And I'm going to observe, I'm going to collect the information, and I'm going to find out that there is a leak in my pipe under my kitchen sink. That's pretty much how you would approach anything like that. And Jack, you may want to add something to that.
Yeah, I would just say that one of the big studies I did on ghost hunters, surveying and interviewing 203 ghost hunters from around the world, 80-something% of them had a belief system that you would consider very traditional, Christian, Jewish, Islam, etc. Some Wicca thrown in there too. But that's an extremely high percentage of people who call themselves ghost hunters who also have a personal belief system. And so our group is not in the business of telling what people should believe, but we are working on the physical side of things, because that's where we have the tools of science to help us measure things. But it in no way, shape, or form denigrates. For example, I work at a Catholic university, and the basis of Catholic tradition is that humans are both spiritual and physical beings. But science only gives us tools in the main to work with the physical side of things. So it's not that we're agnostic, it's that we work with the tools we've been given, and that's primarily on the outside, not what happens in my head, but what we can measure on the outside that happens exterior to me.
Good. Well put. All right. Moving on. Ghost Eerie Paranormal. Are the anomalies in temperature measured in Fahrenheit or Celsius? Fahrenheit being a wider numerical range? And is this measured with relative humidity?
We tend to be Fahrenheit because we are Americans, and it tends to be what we're used to. We do also collect the data. The data is also collected in Celsius at the same time, depending, because we don't just run one type of temperature sensor. We have a lot of times we're going in, we have different types of temperature sensors, because you got to also show that, this sensor picked it up and this one didn't. And if they're close to each other, then probably that one sensor is broken. So, that's one of the reasons we do it. But a lot of times we collect it in both Fahrenheit and Celsius. And and we do measure the relative humidity. We do measure that as well. So we have all that data collected together.
Awesome. Cool. All right, moving on. Kit Ford. Hey, Kit. Have any paranormal investigator groups teamed up and one group knows nothing about a suspected site and the other does, then they compare notes to see if there is overlapping activity? That's interesting.
Well, we've never participated in
Really done
this,
that.
but
No.
yeah, we've never participated in anything like this. A lot of times, groups are afraid of us, so they don't come anywhere near us. But
That's because
that's I'm mean, vicious, and cruel. But yeah, we haven't done anything like that yet. I wish I could answer that, but I have no information.
Part of the answer is that it's a conundrum because Brad and Ladonna and Allen and I have all mentioned in various ways tonight that when you follow the scientific method, you want to have a hypothesis and you want to gather data and you want to test your hypothesis. So one of the conundrums is when we go into a brand new historical site, how much do we want to know about it in advance as opposed to just going and getting baseline information ourselves about the site? And our general default has been to try to get information about the site, because if the docents have seen a woman in white at the top of the stairs 10 times, it would seem foolish for us not to point a couple of cameras that direction. But on the other hand, you also immediately, as somebody mentioned earlier tonight, begin to set expectations. Oh, we didn't see the woman in white at the top of the stairs. So it's a conundrum. And I would say that generally speaking, we want to know something about the place before we come in. So we're not just throwing darts blindly at a dartboard. But on the other hand, we have to be careful not to get our expectations going before we have data to back anything up.
Yeah, there's that bias thing. We gotta be very careful about that in the experiment.
Yeah, I'd like to know the claims being made before I go in, because that's what I go in to test, the specific claim. And so it helps to know. And then afterwards, I usually research the crap out of it so I can understand the history of the place and then where things came from, or if people that are being blamed for haunting a location didn't actually exist. I've come across that plenty of times. All right, good question. We're making progress here. We're almost done. I thank you guys so much for hanging out. I love this. Michael Stanley Walker, you mentioned putting aside anomalies that can't be explained. If you get enough anomalies, what do you do with that information? Is that data reevaluated, the site revisited, or is it just dropped?
We don't put aside anomalies that can't be explained. They're part of the data collection. What I was talking about was when people actually do that and they throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing. It's like they see an anomaly and then there's an assumption made that they can't use it, so they throw it out. There's also a tendency in physical sciences through the use of standard statistical methods to throw out anomalies. And in the data that's collected in a tabular form, and that's not something that we should be doing here, because we're trying to find out the sweet spot, trying to figure out what people think they see in here. So in order to do that, you got to grab onto those anomalies. So we hold on to them. If we do get enough anomalies, if it's a trend of anomalies, so to speak, then we're going to have to dig deeper into that and try to find out why that is. What's causing the anomaly. And there's a difference between correlation and causation. A lot of people try to say, well, this correlates with this, so this has got to be the reason. Well, that may not be necessarily true. So it may correlate just fine, but the cause is something other than what the correlation is. So that's another tricky thing too. And we always revisit the sites if we can. Every site that we go to multiple times. Like we said, we've been going to Bacon's Castle since 2012. So,
and we never throw away data. There are things that might not show up. There are things that might not show up in 8 hours worth of data on one Saturday night. But when you combine it with 5 trips to the place and the aggregate data, all of a sudden a pattern can emerge. So what might not be an anomaly one night might show up in a bigger data set as part of an anomaly.
Yep, that's why I'm trying to figure out if using Google Cloud BigQuery is going to help us, because we have data from all over the place. And, tons of it where we've gone to different sites, like, Bacon's Castle since 2012, Scotchtown multiple times, John Marshall House multiple times, all these different locations multiple times. But, it can get very taxing on a person to try to find trends and anomalies over those massive time periods and huge data sets like that. So the big query thing that Google Cloud offers is a very powerful tool for something like this. And I'm trying to work with Bobby, our founder, who happens to work for Google. She actually is trying to help me out on identifying whether or not we can even use the cloud in our current workspace or not. If we can, then I'm going to. That big query thing is super important. We got to figure out what some of these trends and anomalies are, because we do have some. It's anecdotal right now because I can't prove it, because it's so hard to examine, hundreds of gigs of data in my little pea brain. But that's why the big query is going to be so important. And AI is going to help in this too, because I'm going to try to get Gemini to the Google Gemini to work with the big query to go ahead and do some of this data analysis for me.
Cool. All right. Moving on. Ghost Eerie Paranormal. Is psychological and physiological data logged? EEG, ECG, EDA, for example, emotions and personalities. Myers-Briggs, for example.
We haven't done any Myers-Briggs on in our research projects.
Well, and because
participated.
because we're not doing private homes and we're not dealing with homeowners anymore, and that sort of thing. We did hook up one of our researchers with all kinds of equipment to measure heart rate and stuff. But I don't think that's what they're.
We did see we did notice something about that though, and this was your experiment.
Yeah, I remember.
We put a brand new person who was very skeptical into a room in Bacon's Castle and had her sit there when measuring heart rate, temperature, stuff like that, And the interesting thing that we found was that when she would hear something in the house, when we would hear it on the audio, because we had microphones around her too, and we would hear something like a swishing in the house, which, we don't know what that was, but when you would hear it, she would hear it and her body would react this like almost a full second before, or she would pick up on it a full second before the rest of her body reacted, if you get my drift. So that was interesting data all about.
Or a split second before we heard it in HQ. It was really fascinating.
Yeah.
And
it was fascinating.
Just a warning about this. As we've evolved as a research organization, we realize that we owe as much safety to our investigators as we do to the clients that we're working with. And so this is a tricky area to hook people up with everything. Even though we've done it a few times, it's a tricky thing. You have to be very careful.
Yeah, we have our version of an IRB that we kind of have to follow all the rules and regulations around human experimentation. So you got to follow that, and that's another thing. Let me get up on my soapbox here. Oh, there it goes. Okay. The thing that these other teams do sometimes is they use people as trigger objects in these places, and some of these people are emotionally challenged, or they're basically they're scared out of their minds. So they take them in there and then they hit them with this trauma, right? Well, that's human experimentation. They are not following the rules. They're not doing anything that they're supposed to be doing with this. So that really makes me angry when I see this kind of thing, because I see it a lot.
Yeah,
people do this a lot.
Bums me out. There was an instance where there was a semi-well-known ghost hunter, a guy that did experiments, but he was doing experiments with infrasound and doing it on participants without telling them,
without their knowledge. Yeah, I heard about this.
No idea. Yeah, no idea what was going on, and there were also no emergency services on site whatsoever. And they were sending people in there. They were priming them, and then hitting them with infrasound, and not giving any care whatsoever of what might be going on or what they might be doing to these people. And myself and Dave Schumacher and Tim Vickers, we do another show together. And like, we all questioned it. Like, what are you doing? Like, do these people know? Did they sign consent forms? Did you have EMS on scene? Like, what are you doing? What controls are in place for this? And I think they tried to give us like, well, we were making sure that they were okay. That was their first answer, which I responded, bullshit. You're doing nothing. You're doing nothing. You're experimenting on people without their knowledge. Like, that's wrong. You're doing it wrong.
Think about Tuskegee. That's
yeah.
The whole syphilis thing. That right there. That the IRB thing is so important because that's like a security thing. That stops you from doing stupid.
Right.
Like what you just described. So,
all right.
Jack, you're frozen, buddy. You still there?
I think we lost him.
Yeah, I might have.
All right.
He'll come back real quick.
Yeah. All right. Oh, yep, there he goes. All right. Hopefully
Yeah.
I'll pop back in. We'll go on to the next question. We got 2 left. And then you guys can go and get some rest. Ghost Theory Paranormal again. Have you experimented with lux, luminosity, very micro alterations that we can't perceive?
Actually, we have data around that. It was accidental, but we have data, and that's another thing I like to bring up too, is that a lot of the interesting things that we found were accidental. And we were looking this direction, and lo and behold, it's something over here. And it was all by accident that we saw it. But we actually collected a ton. I have probably 4 years worth of LUTs data, and using standard light meters and in various locations. And some of the interesting stuff we found there is that there are times when there's light in these locations that I can't explain. That's all I can say about it because I don't know what's causing it. But this along with a spike in EMF and along with something else might indicate that maybe there could be an electrical thing. If there's a lamp in the room, maybe that lamp is arcing or something like that. Who knows? Right. But whatever it is, we do collect this stuff. So we have a ton of that data, and that's more of the data that I need to go back and look at. Because when you collect data as often as we do, we're already up above 2 terabytes of data. And this is not video and audio. This is like tabular numbers. That's a lot of data.
That's a lot of data.
So I got to figure out a way to really dive into this with something like BigQuery. So
there he is.
Oh, there's Jack.
There's Jack.
Sorry about that, guys. I'm back.
Yay.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, cool. Jack, I don't know if you saw this. This is the last. You only missed this question. That's it. I don't know if you had anything to add to
Just
this.
the one.
Have you experimented with illuminicity, very micro alterations that we can't perceive? That's the answer is no. We haven't done a whole lot with that I know of, but because it involves instrumentation beyond what the 5 human senses are, it's something we're interested in because we think stuff is happening that we're not perceiving all the time.
Well, the Lux thing, though, Jack, we have collected a bunch of light data, visible light data, for about 4 years. We did with that those sensor blocks, like the ones that Leslie purchased. But that Lux data, that's something we're going to have to look at because I haven't looked at micro alterations at all. I was just looking for bigger spikes. You're talking about 3-4 sigma. Right. That's what I was looking at. So,
all right, last question, guys. Can films for Polaroid Instamatic cameras be manipulated before being used? Anyone?
I don't know.
I mean, I can give
anything physical can be manipulated.
Yeah, I mean, you can manipulate them. You can, because when you have the cartridge, before you load it, the cartridge is still available for you to manipulate. If you put it in a dark bag, You can take the film out. You can take each I call them slides. Each slide out of the cartridge and go from there. And of course, like I have a lot of experience with older Polaroids. I have a whole collection of Polaroid cameras over there. But you can manipulate them. You can use anything from your fingernail to just bending them. If you put a crease in any part of the slide, once the chemical pack breaks and it is spread, because when it shoots out, when you get that and it comes out, what that does is there's two rollers in there that break a chemical pack, and it spreads those chemicals throughout the slide, and it develops the film. But if you have a crease in it, now you're going to have some areas where the chemicals don't get to fully, so you won't have a full development. And then you can also manipulate them as they come out. There's cameras, especially the older Polaroids. There is a way to manipulate them to get double exposures, which is something that it's hard to do, but once you figure it out, it's really fun because you can show some people some freaky shit, and they're like, "Well, it's a Polaroid. You can't fake it, but you can. You definitely can."
We had early in my law enforcement career. That was the go-to, right? Was Polaroid, and I remember, and this is how long it's been. The cartridges that were sealed. Right. And I remember, if there's some sort of tear or something in one of the cartridges, you may end up exposing, all the slides in there. But as far as actually getting in there and messing with them to be able to produce something that I could go, "Ooh, look, here's a ghost." I couldn't tell you how to do it.
Yeah. I mean, once it spits out, and you don't shake it, because that's not how you develop it. You don't shake it, because that's bad. But a simple fingernail, as you're holding it, you can actually write a message on it that, as it develops, that message will appear on the image. And it's pretty
really?
Cool.
I need to do that.
Wasn't it? Okay, wait a minute. Now something jumps to mind. Wasn't somebody like doing that? There was like a famous case where somebody was doing messages.
Yeah. Well, I know, like the entity
more than 30 years ago.
Last Doors by their case used Polaroids that were manipulated in a different way. But there was a case, and I can't remember the name of it, but they did have alleged Polaroids with like death or die written on it, and they were more pronounced. That was definitely not sleight of hand, because you can do it sleight of hand, but that was deliberate. That was sitting there and doing this on it as it was developing, because the scratches were so deep into the image. There's just no other way to do it. But yeah, you can definitely manipulate them, and they're fun. Actually, one of the cameras that you can double expose on, it's an older Polaroid, and my coworker Eric, who is behind the wall here, he bought one that's just like that. Every image, he has to press the shutter button twice for it to eject, so it exposes it twice. It's a mechanical issue with the camera, and I told him, "Do not fix that. I will buy it off you if you don't want it. I'll trade one of mine for it. Like, do not fix it, because I love that. That's a beautiful thing." But that's it. That's all our questions. Thank you guys. I mean, you've stayed for 2 hours and 40 minutes. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. Do you guys want to plug anything? I know I had your website scrolling up across the bottom, but if you have any events coming up that you want to plug, this is the time.
Well, this was the big event, but I'm brown nosing now because I've made you mad, Kenny, with the cat ball on the parasol comment. But yeah, by the way, I still believe you're a parasol. But don't kick me out. But
and he's gone.
Oh, you just went out of the day.
Oh, he got scared.
That was great.
Oh man. Well, anyway, I wanted to tell you that tomorrow night, Saturday night, we're actually leading tours through John Marshall House, downtown Richmond. Haunts of Richmond is actually putting that on. So if you go to their website, the Haunts of Richmond, they're actually providing the tickets for the tour. But we're going to basically, what they do is they lead a tour through the house, and then we tell them what we have discovered anomalies in the house, and we do that, and it's a pretty fun time. We do that also at Vegas Castle in October, but this is at John Marshall House. So we do that. We're actually going to be at Dragon Con in this is going to be our third year at Dragon Con. So we're going to be down there presenting and talking and making people mad. And for some reason, people like it down there. It's amazing.
And Galaxy
and then,
GalaxyCon in Richmond at the
GalaxyCon.
end of March.
Yeah, at the end of March is GalaxyCon here in Richmond. We're also going to be making people mad there. And so those are the big events we have coming up right now.
And at Gettysburg in August, right?
There is Gettysburg. Yeah, Ladona's presenting there.
Awesome.
Well,
And,
hopefully.
I think Mike Magner. Well, I think you will. It's the Paranormal Research Symposium that Alex Mitsuo puts on, and I presented there last year. And Alex, I hope you're listening because I'm plugging your event. But I presented there last year, made some people mad. Mike Magner, one of our other members, presented there also, talking about perceptions in time, that kind of stuff. And he talked about that. And he's actually going to be submitting to present there again in August, trying to go beyond what he talked about this last time. So, and the skeptics track, I've actually went to a couple of those sessions, and I thought that Kenny Biddle should be there at those sessions.
I keep telling them that, but they it's too expensive for me to go. Unfortunately,
It's a great time.
I keep telling them, I'm available. But you probably saw some of our people. Ben Rafford, who is my editor.
Yep.
Many times. Yep. Celestia Ward, who is also one of the hosts of Scoring the Strange with Ben. So I know she was there last year. So, but yeah, they won't pay me to go down there.
Yeah.
And,
oh man,
I'm trying still. I have an in, maybe. So I'm trying to work that, but.
Yeah, I mean, it would be fun if you came on the extract, because then we're going to have so many people mad at us, it could be mad at you.
Oh
yeah,
I'm good at that.
Those are the big ones. Those are the big ones we have coming up. As more happen, though, we tend to post that stuff on our social media page. So on Facebook, it's I'm trying to remember. It's just
it's CPRI.
If you look up CPRI, it's going to pop up.
CenterPRI.org
is the website. Yeah.
Right.
But on Facebook, it's the
CPRI : the Center for Paranormal Research and Investigation.
Yeah, you put it in the search bar, it comes up. Yeah.
Awesome.
It comes up.
All right. Well, thank you guys again. I appreciate you hanging out, especially for almost 3 hours now.
Mm-hmm.
Really great talking to you. This was refreshing to talk to you guys and get your approach and your background and your insight into this what you do. And I like your approach. I really do. That's why I was so excited to have you guys on and talk to you. So I'm going to close out the show. Just real quick, everyone that's watching, next week should be an open mic night, and hopefully with some good NyQuil and I keep trying to give her vodka. Donna will be back because she'll be feeling better. And we'll have an open mic night, and that's pretty much it for now. I don't have any event. I have some events, but I'm going to skip announcing them because I want to get this done so you guys can go and get some rest, and we'll pick up next week. So with that said, I'm going to hit the outro. I'm going to end this up. You guys, if you don't mind, just stay. StreamYard will not kick you out, but it will kick you off here. So it'll put you in the background. So as soon as it's over and it says that it's ended, I'm going to bring you back on just to touch base with you. Okay. All right. Everyone else, have a great night. Have a great weekend. And remember, never stop learning. See you next week.
Hey, diddle diddle, here's a little riddle. Who's the best at bunker? Is it Kenny Biddle? Oh, he's good, not just a little. Not at the bottom or even the middle. Strike a chord like a fiddle. Tasting the rainbow like a skittle. That's fragile and brittle. You can watch him take a problem and start to riddle the problem away. He does not play. He takes his job so seriously. He loves a challenge and won't turn you away. He's such a skeptic, he keeps those believers exposing the fake. It wouldn't take him long to find a needle in hay. Use a magnet, damn it. Now take a drink of Kenny's specialty. Someone may say that's not for me. To each their own, what will be. Man, Kenny's such a skeptic, drinking skeptical tea. Like and subscribe, everybody turn notifications on. And go watch his show and forget about this song. Mr. Wizard or Bill Nye the Science Guy, can you remember? You like Kenny better, so head to the Skeptical Help Bar and meet the bartender. Pick up a drink and relax, cause nobody does this better. Not even close, not even a little. He's the one and only Kenny Biddle.